We'll talk about, actually, let me just start with a question. How many of you have participated and minted NFTs in campaigns, marketing efforts, or some form of like minting thing in the past year? All of us. Oh yeah. I have so many of those in my wallet. Anyway, I'll scream. I have so many of that in my wallet, and instead of just all of us collectively being angry of those not going anywhere and not keeping our attention, I'd like to propose a new way of using them, which is partially what we're going to talk about today, because these aren't inherently bad, even though we had some mediocre experiences with them, but they're really, really useful to use this. And I'd like to incentivize ourselves to use every little data point that we have available on the internet, but essentially on the blockchain, because we can do that here, to help us build better collective experiences around our interests. So as we've seen in the previous cycle, with all the rug pulls and scams and projects fizzling out and bubbles that were existing, we're only scratching the surface for human coordination and what we can do with communities. And so, yeah, let's do better. We can do better. And I truly believe that minting an NFT should not be the only thing that we're doing for community activations. It should only be one part of it, part of the larger experience. And I very much provide a boost for us to value the bidirectional value exchange between members and communities and projects, because that's where the value lies. And I feel like some of that have been forgotten in the past cycle. And we should bring it back. So, by the way, I'm Reka, as Reynolds introduced me, co-founder of Guild.xyz, an access and membership automation tool and infrastructure. And yeah, I just love communities, and I work with communities all the time, everywhere. So we're talking about it. And specifically what activations we can do for internet communities and just groups on the internet. So since the talks title was audience to community, let's see a few things that are super obvious about what the difference is between the two. You can probably read it because we're in a small room, so I won't read it out loud. What I want to focus on, though, is what I terribly like about communities and what is truly possible with the stack that we have now in terms of tooling. And what we should more focus on right now is the many-to-many relationships instead of one-to-many, the fostering the shared belonging and the passion, because that's going to give rise to a lot of other things that are very useful in this process, and giving voice to members, because we can absolutely do that right now, and we should do more of it. We obviously won't, all of the projects will have perfect communities. That's probably not the goal. Many of the projects are sufficient to have audiences alone, and they don't actually need a community. But our goal should be, as many other things, this is also a spectrum, kind of like a range for strength. And our goal should be to converge towards community as much as it makes sense, as much as it's possible. There's just too much opportunity to not make use of some of what communities can give projects. So the few essential steps that we all have to go through on this member journey and that we have to build consciously is the discovery phase, which is all the visibility for the project itself, including the brand, what other projects it's associated to, what other events you're planning and attending. All of those things kind of contribute to people finding you. And here I'd also imply the interest, because if you find people and you can spark the shared sense of curiosity that you have for a topic, and that same light lights up in people, it's going to be a much better ground to then further the journey down as well. The second is education. Us community builders really have to start not looking at lurkers as passive, non-valuable members. We have to start looking at them as they are learning. They're here to learn. And it's fully our job and necessity thing for us to do to provide the material, all the information for them to be able to identify if this is, they like what the mission is, they know what we're building, they know what the identity of the project is, they can see themselves fitting in here, because it's their job after that to decide if I'm aligned with this or not. But it's our job as projects, as community people, to then provide that information first. Then the involvement. This is interesting because there's very few things we do in Web3 on a regular basis, which is I think is super interesting because in-person communities, there's so much more that are already doing. But just some of this are events, technical contributions, creative contributions, governance, for a product community, testing and feedback giving around the product. And the last one is ownership. And without a strong sense of ownership, we'll absolutely lose the long-term contribution options. So there's very, very few people in the world that will provide hours of their week for free forever, and we should not expect them to do so. And so if you're going down on this journey, eventually all the previous alignments have to come in alignment with some form of financial incentives as well, and given ownership. So what I want to expand more on today is how we find members in more of the audience section and get them to be more engaged members based on who they are, and also how roles are kind of the most helpful points for us to help identify these people. And the first one of that is labeling, which is depicted here. This is essentially a process of identifying members based on their interest and their history. There's requirements of key metrics that kind of point to what they've been through on chain and off chain as well, and grant them roles automatically that then gives them access to their rewards, which are in most cases are groups, events, information, tools, and other different opportunities of involvement. The role of roles here is to create this segmentation within the community for overlapping community layers. And those overlapping layers can then contribute to the success of the whole. And they have a more clear vision of how they can do it. And community builders have a better vision of how to target and incentivize them. Oh my goodness, the video might work. No way. I have backup if it doesn't. Oh my goodness, I did not expect this. So Chainlink has a guild, and they use it to identify members. This might be a little fast, but they use it to identify members from different walks of life. So they have roles specifically set up for people of different ecosystems: Polygon, BNB, Avalanche, Optimism. And they also have some for different languages and regions of the world. This is really, really useful for them because what we want to do is channel members towards high-value activations that we're doing and our initiatives, and to form subgroups based on context, because that's going to give a really good ground to what we previously talked about, the many-to-many relationships to form. And yeah, this is just great. And also, in the business perspective, for them to know where to plan an event, what language the event should be in, and if they want to do business development in a new ecosystem, they have a much better understanding of how many of their users are already there and how many people who are already in the community are part of those ecosystems. So like the offering can be tailored much better. Uh-oh. Yes, great. Okay, these were my backup slides, if I can get through them. Yes, great, awesome. And so thanks to the blockchain, we have so much data openly available for us that we can use. I'll bring a few examples through. The first, targeting. It's kind of the process of what I just talked about with labeling as well, very similar. But after you've labeled members, how do you target them with initiatives and involve them in further opportunities? Giving product feedback is one of the things that is highly, highly valuable for projects who are fostering communities to engage them in. And so with the example of Pull Together, they're a community that uses Guild as well. Their goal was to find members who are highly engaged, and they wanted to test out their new project, Hyperspheres. And if you segment well enough, first of all, their solution was to create this role for finding the highly engaged members of holding POAPs from all the events that their community organized in the past 6 months, having a Git POAP, which proves code contribution that you get for contributing on GitHub, and an NFT that the founder or co-founder of this project made. So this way they can fully identify the very highly engaged members, which were, as you can see, a couple hundred. So that's pretty good for them. And if you segment well enough, the whole community journey is going to feel much more personalized and easy to clear out communications within the members. And the targeting approach will foster much better communications and more effective marketing and activating as well. Great. And to shill a few other products as well. Bello.lol. It's a project that helps you kind of a different point of marketing or targeting, to identify based on their wallet addresses that you can create allow lists within Guild so you can set up requirements in Guild that then filter through members into a role. You can export these lists of addresses, and those addresses you can put into Bello, and then it gives a bunch of insights of what they purchased, how much those cost, when are they most active, what other on-chain activations they're doing. It's a great social tool. Mostly creators use it. At least that's who they're selling to. But I feel like just community builders themselves have a lot to benefit from this tool. And I think it's free for now as well, which is great. Yeah? Yay. So if you have, like Zerion, you have a community NFT already, like something on-chain that signifies community membership, it helps so much. And yeah, by providing relevant and valuable content for your members, you'll be the go-to source for information for them. And that's going to be like home base. And you want to feel like home base for a lot of people, for a lot of different things. Yeah. And moving on to the engaging sector, and through, this is also pulled together, again, great community. They're doing so well, honestly. There's so many examples that I can pull from just their guild. What their goal is to, again, find a different group of engaged members, not the ones that we used before for targeting. They are a different group who are governance savvy and have exposure to optimism. So what they wanted to become is essentially a big governance participant on the optimism chain, and they wanted to involve the community in this. So it's possible to set up custom queries on Guild, which you can see here as the requirement. It looks kind of funky because what it allows you to do is set any contract and use the README function of any contract as the requirement. So with this, they could identify members who are holders of optimism and delegate the voting power to the community. And yeah, and also share the Google document with them for more coordination. But yeah, this is a very specific way we can involve people in governance and a very specific Web3 native engagement mechanism. And another tool I want to show is Reka.xyz. Yeah, a few of us have used it weekly. It started out as a fun thing, but it actually grew into a project that is essentially what you want for decentralized decision making. So these are joke races that are going from anywhere from being a funny, silly little joke that runs and wins every week, all the way to protocols making decisions on budget, podcasts making decisions on who's going to be the next guest, because it's kind of a grassroots version of governance and decision making, because everyone can put in notions that you can vote on, and everyone can also participate in voting based on certain requirements that you can also set with Guild, because this also works with the allow list, and everything's interoperable. It's beautiful. Let's get into loyalty and retention. So we've identified our members. We've did some activations for them. We voted, we governanced, we delegated, we involved them in the new development of the project. But now, how do we do loyalty? And to dismantle the big word, it essentially only means that the members are showing interest and willingness to continue participating. And an example of Uniswap, from the Uniswap Guild, they set up roles specifically for loyalty, because it's obviously a really well-going protocol. They don't need much help with the product and stuff like that. What they really want is loyal existing users. And so they set up roles to identify people who are providing liquidity in their VEEV3, who are active users of their exchange with multiple different tiers of how much you transact on Uniswap, and also OG supporters of their social campaigns. the Unisocks NFT holders. This was a campaign years ago where you could purchase this NFT of the Unisocks and you can burn it and redeem a physical sock. And at one point it was worth thousands of dollars. And as you can see, 6 people still hold the NFT and they're like long-term supporters of Uniswap. So this is just a great example of how to use on-chain assets and to identify like really long-term supporters. And loyalty number 2, again, pulled together because, they're wonderful. What they did here is they made roles to find, again, active participants, but those who not only partake in a current basis, but have been for a while, and they're here for the long run. So what they did is they've identified people who are active in their decision-making through Snapshot, and they also have this initiative where you collectively stake Ethereum with the community, and it benefits the community because they get some of the percentages, and the members who are staking get rewards as well. So they're for their own benefit. They put their own financials into a community pool to benefit the community and themselves, which I think is beautiful and truly like a loyalty metric. We're coming to the end. These are like my closing thoughts. Roles are good. Crafting the perfect member journey is almost impossible, and it requires just everyone's so different. Like you cannot do like one tailored thing that was going to fit everybody. And what I want us to focus on, though, is build journeys where we can identify and help members from becoming lurkers all the way into active participants if it matches them. And it's our job to help them realize if it does and provide all the opportunities. With proper, should I read this? I'll read this. With proper automations, recognition systems, and role management, the member journeys will be much more personalized for every community, that it's big or small. And if you have a constantly growing audience, 1% of that becomes a regular that comes to your calls and events and some of your engagements. And a few of them become active contributors. You're doing so much better than most of the communities that are out there, and even better than some of the Web2 projects that are fostering community because they don't have the tooling that you do. And it's just the last thing. It's benefiting all of us to build these more personalized journeys for the members, not just the members, you as well, me as a participant, and everyone else. And finally, I could not say this 2 years ago, but now we do have the tooling to do so. And so go out and do it. I'll stick around for questions, but we won't be on stage for that.